Hey y'all, it's Mamaw and welcome to my porch. We'll give it a minute while I wait for some more people to jump on here. We've just got so much to discuss this week, it ain't even funny. So we'll wait and see if anybody jumps on here. Okay. Alrighty. So what I got here, let me fix my screen here a little bit. Kind of makeshift because I'm not on the porch tonight. It's pouring the rain outside. I have a green screen. It looked terrible. So y'all have to just be patient. I am an old grandma, you know. So the first thing I'd like to do is to thank my sponsors, Artsy Aubrey's. She's the one who designs my shirts and she manages the merch and hosts it. And that'll be dropped down into the comments section, the link for that. And Obscure Mics, because Jeremy Marker, he wants to make sure everybody can hear me, even though I've got a pretty big mouth on my own. He wants it to sound good. If you can't hear me and it doesn't have a good sound, please drop it into the comments so I can make corrections. Well, good evening, Roberta. I see that you remembered tonight. Hello, Renee. And Shelly has dropped a link tree over there in the comments. If you click on that, it's got all my different platforms listed. You just click on them, including my merch. Hi, Cindy from Middleburg, Florida. I hope it's quit raining down there. It rained all last week that I know. So anyway, I want to thank my sponsors very much. Tomorrow night, which will be Wednesday, September 24th at 7 p.m., in the second floor East Ballroom of the Morse Building at Shawnee State University. I'll be appearing there. It's open to the public and it will be live streamed on Facebook. I don't have the link yet, but as soon as Landon gives me the link, we'll have it posted for those of you who can attend. Also on October 4th at the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where I'm going to be at the Cecil Andrus Symposium. You can sign up and we'll drop that in the link too. Hey, Carmel, glad you joined. Mary, glad you joined. So I'll be out in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So for all of my viewers out there in the Pacific Northwest and in the West, if you want to make a nice trip of it, come and join us there at the casino and resort and we'll have a fun time there. That's going to be an all day long event. Okay, so for tonight's topics, I had them all ready and written out. And then, unfortunately, I saw Taco at the United Nations. Good Lord, when are people going to be embarrassed enough they invoke the 25th? That was humiliating. As an American, that was absolutely humiliating. The man is as dumb as a sled. He's in the throes of dementia, let alone his ego, because, you know, he got to say big words. Now, he couldn't string them together in a sentence that made any sense, but he was really proud of him for saying big words and talking about building borders and not using returnable energy. And, oh, good Lord, it was a disaster. I don't know how much longer his supporters and the people in his administration can go up with humiliation. So not only does he smell like shit, he sounds like shit. So first of all, in tonight's topics are Jimmy Kimmel is back tonight. That's the good news. The bad news is all of Ohio and West Virginia, but not Kentucky, ABC affiliates are owned either by Sinclair or Nexstar. So we won't get to see it until the next day when they post it online on YouTube. So what we all need to do, because we now know many voices as one are powerful, and that's what I have started from the get-go with Mamaw, is I want you to take your power back. I want you to know that many are a powerful, powerful thing. So we're going to contact anybody locally that you know that advertises on the ABC affiliates where Sinclair or Nexstar owns. Tell them we're going to stop watching if you keep advertising on them. If you can, go on to Sinclair's website and contact them or Nexstar and tell them that you're going to boycott until they put your shows back on. Because, you know, as much as they want to say they're conservatives and as much as they want to shove their beliefs down our throats, the bottom line is the one thing they worship more than anything is the almighty dollar. And if it starts costing them in the pockets, they're going to change. Hey, Jackie, I'm glad you got to jump on. And hey, Margie. And let's see who else jumped on. Yeah, I know, Renee. It was totally humiliating. Lisa Schwartz, yes, he's such an embarrassment. But anyway, so I want you all to use your voice because we're going to be loud. We've all found our voices and it's powerful. We're going to do this. The reason they let Kimmel on, it's not that they had a change of heart and, you know, they just thought better of it. It's flat because in the short period of time that we all contacted Disney and canceled our subscriptions, Disney lost $3 billion in a week. And that was due to the actions of all of us acting as one. We still have to watch for our First Amendment, which is the most fundamental foundation of this country. Free speech. We've always had it, and now they're trying to quash it. They're trying to make us think the way they do. Since we are the majority, they're the loud minority, but they're not going to bend us under rule. They're not going to crush our throats under their boots. We're not going to have it. We're going to fight. We're going to do it the way they did it. I know that for years, everybody said, oh, we got to take the high road. No, we don't. That ain't written anywhere. You fight fire with fire, and we're going to show them, yeah, okay, let's watch what this snowflake does. So good for everybody for getting Jimmy back. My next topic is, the taco and the brainworm man and their announcement about Tylenol and autism. First of all, to anyone out there who has a child or a grandchild on the spectrum, please do not feel that you ever did anything wrong. There is not an external cause. I think the so-called rise, a lot of it is simply we diagnose better or we want to educate better, so we're not trying to pound people into little round holes where they don't belong. Everyone's different. But anyway, the taco and the brainworm man, who remember for 30 years was a heroin addict as well. He's got a stoned brainworm's all I can figure. Is the only reason that they've said don't take Tylenol if you're pregnant. I also noted that once again, this man told women to suck it up, buttercup, if it hurts a little bit. You know, like all times. Women should support the pain. The men can go on without it. I mean, I can just see Taco going without his Tylenol if he was hurting. But it's also if you have a fever, because high fevers during pregnancy are far more critical than anything else. The Taco could not pronounce the word acetaminophen. So, you know, bless his heart, he's trying, he struggles, he thinks he discovers new words. I hope the manufacturers of Tylenol jump in and sue the hell out of him, because depositions would be really fun. They would all have to be deposed. We have a doctor on here, and I'm sure that she will also tell you that taking Tylenol is safe during pregnancy. There is science behind it. Over in the Netherlands, they ran a 30-year study. There is no link. Every medical professional out there, including the American Society of Pediatricians, have come out and said, this is not true. Don't believe it. This is as dangerous as telling people not to vaccinate their children. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. These childhood diseases used to kill almost half of the children born, and we all but eliminated them. And now Crazy Brainworm Man and the Taco are telling people, no, don't vaccinate. Vaccinations are dangerous. Keep in mind that the Taco's the one that said you can inject bleach and take horsewormer to cure COVID. Now, I'm here to tell you, horsewormer is horsewormer. I think Brainworm Man needed to take some horse wormer to get rid of the brain worms, but it doesn't cure COVID. And he's in charge of our medical care. The other thing, along with the lines of medicine, is that the taco was supposed to meet with Schumer and Jeffries on stopping the shutdown of the government over our health care. The Democrats have taken a stand. You're not going to cut Medicaid and Medicare, or we're not going to vote for this budget. So if we have a government shutdown on September 30th, it is not anyone's fault except the taco and them damn Republicans that voted for the big bullshit bill that want to take away health care from millions of people in this country. That is absolutely wrong. It is ridiculous. People have to fight in this country to get their health care, and this has got to stop. This whole thing of the rich don't have enough yachts and the rest of us have to bear it on our backs has gotten far too old. It's ridiculous. This is not an us and them. This is not a red state, blue state. This is not a man, woman. This is not blacks against whites, as much as they want to make this divisive. This is pure and simple the uber wealthy and the working class and poor people. This kind of structure goes clear back to medieval times when the warlords would take off of your backs, your labor, your goods, your farm goods, and say, well, if you want to be safe and come into here, give us your goods. And people did for a century, and then finally they said, we've had enough. We're not doing it. We are there again. This happened back in the late 1800s when the robber barons were building railways, taking all the coal. It happened in our coal fields back in the 20s and 30s. Don't forget about Blair Mountain and what they've done in the mines. These robber barons think they own human beings, and we have got to stop fighting each other so that they get wealthier. I'll get off my soapbox. Yes, Miss Kent, we got to find sound medical advice. Thank you, Dr. Heiser. Tylenol is safe. It is effective. Now, that doesn't mean you take a half a bottle. But this goes back to what I said a while ago. You know, when we were talking about women's reproductive rights, which is a whole lot more than just abortion. I mean, it really takes on a lot. What they want is, if a man goes into an emergency room and he's doubled over in pain, and maybe it's kidney stones, maybe it's not, but a woman goes in and maybe she's miscarrying or has an ectopic pregnancy, you've got to damn near be dead before they'll do anything. Even with what we passed here in Ohio, they are not getting the care that they deserve because you got to be sick enough. And that's bullcrap. And that's kind of what this is. Punish the woman, because, I mean, Taco said right out of his mouth, you know, you got to toughen it up, which is crazy. So, please do not believe anything that comes out of Brainworm's mouth. I cannot believe that Dr. Oz stood behind him with a straight face, and he supposedly is a doctor. Quite a few doctors have jumped on today onto Oz. I mean, he just totally defied his Hippocratic oath. So that's all I'm going to say about the Tylenol thing, except it is safe, it is effective, and don't believe anything out of Brainworm Man. He's not even a trained scientist, let alone anything else. Which brings me, you know, Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for governor of Ohio, claims to be a scientist, and well, he's not. He too is an attorney, and I don't know why they suddenly think that they're scientists, but that's a whole nother story. Okay, our next topic. This is going to be a dandy. So it seems any investigation in the Trump administration, any investigation, goes there to be killed or to be hidden or to be so incompetently screwed up it's gone away. Except for going after our political enemies. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Tom Homan. That's the evil, I say that he's like Hitler's Hemrick. who wants to go out and terrorize people who have come to this country to live a better life, serve their people well. They're trying to become legal. And in fact, here lately, they're even rounding up legal immigrants. They're crippling businesses like GE in Louisville, Kentucky, by taking legal immigrants and suddenly saying that they're going to revoke their visas and hauling them out of there, so we don't even have enough people working in manufacturing right now. So you got Holman, that back in September of 2024, so Joe Biden was still in office, and the FBI set up a sting operation, and Holman took $50,000 cash in a bag, all on film, and said that he could guarantee contracts because he could guarantee that Taco was going to win. Both of those are troubling statements. So he took the cash to say that they would get these contracts. This has been investigated until Doge jumped in there and they started getting rid of FBI agents, because I think what happened is old Elon said, Taco, you got a problem, because they uncovered that. So Taco tells Blondie Pam Bondi, hey, stick those over in the same pile with the Epstein files. So Blondie Pam Bondi, ever the obedient Stepford wife from Mar-a-Lago, she's got the Mar-a-Lago look going, except her hair's blonde, did exactly what she was told instead of doing what she's supposed to do. And in the meantime, they started getting rid of their seasoned investigators. They got rid of people that knew about the background of these investigations, and they buried it. And then somehow somebody grew a conscience and it came forward. They said there's no here. Kash Patel, that's what he looks like. He's bizarre. Kash Patel says, nope, it's done. It's over. We're not doing that. We're going after political enemies. And his sentence was horrific. But anyway, so they go on with this investigation, and it's buried, along with Jeffrey Epstein's files and Ghislaine Maxwell and all of that. Well, then you throw in from The Hague, they're wanting further information. Now, remember, The Hague is where we try war crimes, and a lot of this you have to get the information from the BBC, because God knows we're not talking about it on our media. So The Hague wants to know, what did you know about those Venezuelan boats? How do you know what was on there? And what gave you the right to attack them in international waters, since they were not a warship? Crickets. So we have the Holman investigation and film of it. We have Jeffrey Epstein's investigation and enough files to fill a boxcar plus video. And now we have this issue with Venezuela, which we should have had background information and who provided it, and we do have video of it. What's going on in this crooked ass administration, and what are they covering up? Which leads me back to, hello, Cynthia. If all of this is going on, why Taco is now saying he wants his political enemies investigated and put on trial? Well, it's just to distract you. Everything he does is to distract you. Dealing with the Taco is like walking into a room where spaghetti's been thrown up on the ceiling, the walls, it's on the floors, and you're trying to navigate this maze of spaghetti, of all this off-the-wall stuff. Do not get distracted. Do not look at each stranding noodle and try to react to it. Overall, Taco does not want you to look into his money, and he does not want you to look into Epstein. All the rest of it's distraction and noise. We have to stay focused on the economy, on the Epstein records, because it's more than just the Taco that's being protected here, and then on equality. So on the economy, we have lost 800,000 jobs. So Taco's answer is, we're not going to do a quarterly jobs report anymore. We have prices that are skyrocketing on everything you buy. Of course, wages are flat, but prices are up. And what does Taco do? We're no longer going to do our quarterly on the cost of living and things. We just got our second quarter findings on sales of farm goods. Zero grain was bought by China this year from us. Zero. And they were by far our largest export. He's crippling the farmers that supported him. We have beef that's no longer being raised because a lot of the beef producers have just sent their stuff to market. They didn't even keep cows to reproduce. So pork and chicken seems to be the way to go. Of course, Taco said he wanted rid of cows. But Taco's answer to all of this is, we're just going to stop filing the reports. We don't need to see a report if you're out of a job. You know you're out of a job. And keep in mind that he's also crippled already filing for unemployment, keeping your medical care. I mean, how are you going to get Medicaid if you're out of a job and there's no jobs around to meet your work requirement? And this was all created by him. When he took over in January, we had the healthiest economy in the world. And now we're facing a great recession, if not a depression. Because remember, while Taco and his lizard brain thinks it's great they lowered the interest rates, they lowered the interest rates because the labor market was getting soft. And if you ain't working, you ain't got no money to spend. I don't care whether it's got interest to it or not. Yes, follow the science, Melinda. You're absolutely right. She has a great thing there that they identified it. And like I said, I truly believe, and I may be wrong, I am not a scientist. I support science, but I'm not a scientist. But I think a lot of it is we just have better skills at diagnosing people on the spectrum. And it can be a wide spectrum. I think we all might have different things going on. But we're just better at diagnosing, treating, and opening our eyes and arms to different ways that people learn. I don't think there's this big spike like Brainworm Man says. Let me see. Let me get caught up here. Yes, Michelle, it is. They are not less than. They are just different. And vive la différence. Let's see what else. Stella Brown. Yeah, now, at the person's funeral, whom I still refuse to name, it was noted that Taco and Elon seems to be trying to rekindle their romance. I don't think that's exactly true, because it looked like they were in a very intense discussion for a while. I think what's driving Taco nuts is that when Elon first left, he said there were more Epstein records out there. And he got people to kind of laugh it off. But he was able to get into everybody's system. He has everything that was on the computers in the government offices, Elon Musk now has. And I think he has those records because they're not really all hard copy records. Just like any other courthouse, hospital, whatever, they're scanned in. They're somewhere in cyberland. I also happen to think the reason that we're suddenly getting along with Great Britain so well is I think that King Charles discovered his mother's tranche of Epstein records in regard to Andrew. So I think those records are out there. It's just a matter of getting our hands on it. And keep in mind that the estate of Jeffrey Epstein has said, you can have his records. We just need a subpoena. We have his banking records. And the Republicans in Congress and the Senate voted no. And there is no reason for that whatsoever, except they know who else is on those lists and they're covering for them. And for the women senators, Republican women senators, and Republican women congressmen who voted to protect these predators, shame on you. You're like Ghislaine. A woman that would do that is worse than the men doing it, because you're not protecting those women. And there is zero reason and zero excuse not to turn that loose. Yeah, Stella, that might not be a bad idea. Okay. Oh, San Diego. Thank you, Daniel, for hopping on. Hey, Kim. Yes, Blondie Pam Bondi is not qualified to have. None of these prosecutors that he's appointing are qualified at all for their job. But for the head cop of the whole country, which is Blondie Pam Bondi, to do what she did is inexcusable, and she should be held to account. However, having said that, we're in the mess we're in today because Merrick Garland sat on his hands and then would not be effective and didn't push it out and be aggressive because he didn't want it to look political. Well, guess what? When you break the law, you break the law. It's going to be political. If you got a criminal that breaks the law regularly, I don't care if he's running for president or not. He's a criminal and needs to be charged. So what he effectively did, Merrick Garland, was tell anybody, if you don't want to be in trouble, just say you're running for president. So I guess that's all you have to do. Yes, Rhonda, it is the most corrupt administration ever. Since Taco has taken office, he has doubled his wealth. And we're only 9 months into it. Doubled his wealth in 9 months in office. And we've got 3 years and 3 months to go. Good God. And let me see who else we have on here. Hey, Dennis. Yes, I won't say his name, but absolutely everything you've got in there, and I was going to talk about that in a little bit. I've got it down here. So Stephen Miller did use Goebbels' speech word for word at the funeral. I don't know why you would have that man. He is absolutely a cartoon character of a villain if you were going to have one in a movie. And like I said, Holman is the Heimlich of the two. Stephen Miller is behind all this white nationalist. Stephen Miller is the most vile human being that ever drew a breath. He makes Steve Bannon look like a brownie. But Stephen Miller knows that nobody would put up with him, so he found the perfect puppet in Taco. So if something happens that Taco's out of office, Stephen Miller goes away. If something happens to Stephen Miller, I think Taco would change a lot because he's too dumb. He needs a puppet master. Stephen Miller's a Jew. His family are Jews that escaped the Holocaust. I don't know what happened to his warped little twatty mind, but this is one of the most evil human beings, or he's somebody reincarnated, but it is absolutely an abomination. But I refuse to, like I said, I'm not going to give any more oxygen to the young man who was assassinated. That was a horrible event, but what he espoused was equally as horrible. Women are not going back. I find it interesting that the man who says a woman's place is at home, raising children, not having a career, is now going to manage and be the CEO of this huge organization. I find it interesting that the young man that said that anyone who went to college is getting conned and that college was a racket, and his wife appears to have an advanced college degree. So I guess this is a case of do what I say, but behind closed doors we're raking in millions and we're going to do something else. And I'm just not going to give oxygen to that. I'm not going to discuss it. This is as much as I've ever said about it. And I just think it's strange that any funeral, whether it's been a head of state, a monarch, someone in our own country who's been in public office, did not get an entire administration to show up and speak at a funeral. This is beyond bizarre. In my own hometown, I guess Sunday they're going to have an event for him. I'm not going to give any oxygen to racists. So that's all I'm going to say. Yes, well, you've got to figure that sexual predators also preyed upon young men. I still like to know what went on with Jim Jordan and the Ohio State wrestlers, because he did have to sit for depositions. And I think those should be released because he's a sitting member of Congress. And remember, Denny Hassert, who was the Speaker of the House, went to prison because wrestlers screamed loud enough. Finally, people listened and found out that he had been molesting young wrestlers. Duh. And so I think that's why they're trying to cover this up, because they know quite a few of them may be in big trouble. Let's see. All righty. Yeah, just about anything, Shelley, that Taco is involved in is a grift. I'm sure we'll be seeing things for sale. Kind of like the Shroud of Turin. Bits and pieces will be sold. So, I want everybody to stay focused still on keeping our First Amendment rights. That's number one on our list for this week. We got to get after the Next Star and Sinclair bunch. Number two, I want everybody to remember to support science. When you hear something weird from Brainworm Man, go talk to your pharmacist. Go talk to your family doctor. Go talk to your nurse practitioner. At least they still have training in hands-on science. They said phones almost crashed at Ohio Health today of people calling in if it was safe to take Tylenol. And like I said, I really hope Tylenol sues them. And then, most importantly, watch the economy. If it feels like money's tight, it is. If it feels like there are a lot of people that are suddenly out of work, they are. If it feels like his 401k is doing great, but mine aren't, it's true, because they're playing with your money. They're making sure they're making money. And if farmers continue at this rate, having to let food rot in the field because they have no customers for it, nor do they have migrants in there to harvest for them, we've got a whole nother problem, because once again, just like the first time he was in office, they're going to want the Taco to bail them out. I'm all for bailing out farmers if we have had a drought, if we have had storms, tornadoes, unforeseen circumstances. Hell yes, that's what we're supposed to do. That's what Americans do for each other. That's also a form of socialism, by the way, for any farmers who might be watching. That's a form of socialism. When you ask the government to bail you out with taxpayer money from the rest of the country, that's socialism. It can be a good thing. So I'm going to have a real problem, because this is 100% man-made. The man who made this mess is the Taco. And you want us to bail you out of a man-made mess by the man you supported to the detriment of the rest of us. I don't think I can put that any plainer. I hope you all think about it. You can all kind of be mad at me if you want to. But I got a problem with that. Especially here in Ohio, when we are taking money and food from school children to build a stadium for the Haslam family, to issue vouchers to an area that doesn't have secondary schools like that, and for an area to desperately need SNAP benefits and school lunch programs, which are under the Department of Agriculture, which used to buy farmers' goods. See where I'm going with that? So if the economy feels bad, it is getting bad. Number two, the Epstein files. Do not let go of that. Be like an old dog over a bone. I am telling you, the more they dig in and don't release after they ran. It's not like this is something that was made up by the Democrats. I don't know how he can say, oh, the Dems made this up, when they're voting to protect it. Now, how do you vote to protect something that's not there? No, there's a there. And I think it's far deeper, and a whole lot more people realize that they're in it. And that's why they're not voting to release it, because the women have already said, release it. People already know where his survivors. Go ahead and release it. So the fact that they're not tells me there's a lot there. And on equality, the fact that he doesn't think any woman or person of color is smart enough to come in out of the rain and need to be managed, that just because you're a woman, you can't be a fighter jet pilot. Well, guess what? Our top pilots right now are women. And if you take women out of the military, which is 19% of your military, you're hurting, Pete Hegseth, you piece of shit. And you take people of color out, because there again, the young man who died last week flat said he had questions if he saw that his airline pilot was black. And when we talk about people of color, we're meaning all people of color, which brings me to the Vice President of the United States. Shame on you. Your wife is an accomplished attorney and a woman of color, and your children are people of color. And you're beholden up to this man? Shame on you. That is outrageous. You're talking about your children. What are you teaching your children that you tolerate what he and Stephen Miller are putting out and Pete Hegseth? Shame on you. So that's all I got. How do we get... And see, this is what you have to realize with the administration. We're going to flip this Congress, because you're learning to use your outside voices. You're becoming activists, because it does little. Silence does not change anything, but being loud does. Getting out there, being loud, being heard, that's what changes things. So the problem is, if we flip the Congress and we immediately go after the administration, all they're going to say is, see, we flipped the Congress and all you got done was doing that. We need to flip the Congress, and the first things we need to do is to instill voting rights, fix gerrymandering, put age limit on the judiciary, and enshrine that once you can vote and your birthright citizenship, period, enshrine in Roe v. Wade. We need to get those basic fundamental rights enshrined into the Constitution. Congress can do it. They can make law. And then after the next presidential election, we can go after what's going on with this administration. But the first things when we flip Congress, they need to get the people's work done. And we need to give them enough that we can make them veto proof. And I think we can do that if we all dig in. What do I think the Reform Act of 2017? Well, it didn't get reformed, did it? They need to bring a lot. I can't believe that the John Lewis Voting Rights Act didn't get put through, but it didn't. Hey, Lynn from Pittsburgh, thank you for jumping on. No, we don't need that stadium, and I don't like the Browns anyway. I'm a Bengals gal. Okay. Who else has jumped on here? Yeah, and that's another thing, Carla. And J.D. Vance's wife is a Hindu, which I'm good with that. That's fine. What I mean is, for him to suddenly be this white Christian nationalist, and I'm like, have you looked at your family, you buffoon? And this is a man who, until 10 years ago, wasn't even J.D. Vance. Go to my YouTube. I did a nice story about Jimmy Hamill. Watch that again. What grown-ass man goes through the military, then to Yale or Ohio State University, then Yale, and then changes his name? I don't think anybody's ever really investigated him for that, because that's just bizarre. Denton, Georgia. Oh, how I love Georgia. Hey, and how are your crops doing down there? I heard Georgia's had some problems with the peach crop this year. Not that it's going to matter, because Taco did away with their customer base. And I just saw someone, BJ Duncan from Michigan. Michigan. You guys are still, could be blue if you can get a hold of that southeastern corner and tell them, stop voting against your own best interest. Let's see. You know, Carol, I agree with that 100%. This is going to get me in some deep dog doo here. And I even did a drop on age limits because I truly feel if you're in your 70s and you're running for Congress or Senate or the presidency, you're just doing it strictly on your own ego. It's nothing but your ego. Because we've got a lot of young, gifted people just waiting in the wings that can't get it. The reason they can't is strictly because they don't have the treasury that these other old candidates do. These guys amass war chests that are phenomenal, and it takes a lot of money to run for office. So in the state of Ohio, I was really hoping that we would have some young, vibrant person jump in and run for governor, which someone has, and for Senate. And then Sherrod Brown announced. And I love Sherrod Brown. I supported Sherrod Brown since the get-go from him first time. But if Sherrod gets elected, he's going to be 74 when he takes office. It's a 6-year term. He'll be 80. We have enough Chuck Schumers. Nancy's still in office. Grassley's in his 90s, I believe. Dianne Feinstein was in her 90s and didn't know where she was at and still holding office. But you start going through, almost half of our senators are in their 80s and better, and that's ridiculous. That is absolutely crazy. Retire. Be an elder statesman. Help people along. Go out and talk and teach people about what it really means to be a progressive, which means progress. But no, we're going to vote the old farts in, and everybody then bitches and moans, we got old people in office. Well, you're the ones who voted them in there. I'll get off my high horse. Okay. Yeah, Carla, also getting back on JD, I just don't think that's going to last. I really don't. Okay, Naomi, the Epstein list has to be released to Congress within 30 days. No, they're just trifling it out. And remember, Trump today canceled his meeting with Schumer and Jeffries because he doesn't want to give people health care, and they recessed Congress again when they're not supposed to, which means after September 30th, government shut down. And it's shut down strictly because Taco doesn't want people to have their health care because, you don't need it. You can't even take Tylenol. I suggest again, as I did in one of my other drops, everybody get the book Where There Is No Doctor. There's a lot of good information in there. You can get it off Amazon because we're going to need it, apparently. Okay. Do you have anything else? Man, I really thank all of you for dropping in on here. I hope I gave you some good information. Pamela, thank you for coming from New York. That's a beautiful state up there. Yeah, Ina, how old is Chuck Grassley? I think he's like 92, if I'm not mistaken. And Robin, yes, Amy Acton's running for governor. I don't think, I may be wrong, there's many other Democrats that are running, so it looks like Amy will be, or nobody's announced that they're running with Dr. Acton. We also have another doctor, Dr. Hambley, is running for Secretary of State. Yes, Congress should absolutely have an age limit, but before we can age limit Congress, we have got to age limit the judiciary. That would get rid of half of the Supreme Court. And federal court, but there should be age limits, and I think mid-70s is plenty. I mean, locally, if you are a judge and a county judge, you have to retire. I believe it's 72, 73. It's mandatory, or you can't run again if you're at that age. So if we can do it at the state and local level, I don't understand why the federal bench can't be age limit. Veronica, if you get an answer as to why they keep doing that, you will be in charge of all elections, because the electorate doesn't make any sense when they do that. Okay, Lawrence, where is the blue spot in Florida? I didn't know there was one. But absolutely, Holman. But there again, who's gonna force it? Because right now, the Congress is crippled. Republicans aren't doing the right thing, and Blondie Pam Bondi, a fellow Floridian, is not gonna do anything Taco doesn't tell her to do. I think there's a backstory there too. That's kind of strange. Yes, Renee, we have to get rid of Husted. I think that boy is in way over his head. Now, for those of you from out of state, John Husted was appointed senator to fill J.D. Vance's Senate seat, and that's who Sherrod Brown will be running against. So given the choice between Sherrod and John, of course Sherrod should be in there. I'm just saying, eventually we have got to have the nerve to say to our politicians, like after this term with Sherrod, okay, you've had enough. We need to get some young blood in there. Okay. We need yes, if we could find somebody like Mamdani. I've met several really top-notch young politicians here in Ohio that really just need some space to spread their wings and go. And I understand why a lot of people aren't picking a party anymore, because they kind of had it with both parties putting their thumbs on the scale. And that's not right. I want to choose who my representative is. I don't want your thumb on the scale. You let me choose, and then you support who I choose. That's not what's going on, unfortunately. But we're going to change it. We're going to take the country back. And a lot of that's going to be, I think the number one thing is to get a Supreme Court in there and then do away with Citizens United. That was the beginning of the end. Hey, Marilyn, it's never too late. Thank you for coming from New Jersey. And this will repost so you can watch it again, anything that you might have missed. And remember, for those of you who have Sinclair or Nexstar, we're not going to get to watch Jimmy Kimmel tonight. Okay, well, I've bored the heck out of you all since 8 o'clock. It's been 48 minutes. I do want you to look at anything that we've put on here in my links. Yes, Shelley, the Supreme Court is off the rails. And I don't understand how Taco can get into the Supreme Court willy-nilly, and most people have to wait years to get in there. But there again, if we had age limits, we wouldn't have that big a problem on the Supreme Court. Or do what Pete Buttigieg said. There is nothing in the Constitution that says you have 9 justices. Put in some more justices if we can get a Congress and a president in there. I think come next presidential election, we're going to have some outstanding Democrats to pick from. As long as the party didn't put their thumb on the scale. The 25th Amendment, okay, Carmel. The 25th Amendment can be if there's something grotesquely wrong with the President of the United States, be it a mental deficiency, an illness, an ailment. The Vice President, and only the Vice President, can call up the Cabinet, and the Cabinet and the Vice President can vote to enact the 25th Amendment, which would be to remove the President of the United States. Now, it's strange that it's the Cabinet's decision and not a congressional decision, but I guess they're afraid if you had an opposite party Congress. So the Cabinet and the Vice President could all vote to remove the President of the United States. And I think that's crossing old JD's mind. The difference between JD and the taco is JD's a chameleon. He will go however the wind blows that does the best for him. Taco's stupid. JD's not stupid, but he's an opportunist. There's a difference. And then we would have J.D. Vance for president. But that's the 25th Amendment, which could be enacted. But J.D.'s got to work on the people in the cabinet. And I think a lot of those people are so dumb, they're only in the cabinet because of the taco. I don't think anybody would keep him, not even J.D. Let me see. Yes, but I'll tell you what, Diane, Bernie Sanders has taken on the role of elder statesman. I hope you all watched what I posted on my Facebook page about Bernie in West Virginia and what he did and how brilliantly he put everything into place for people. Bernie is doing so much good by traveling around the country and explaining things to people and how it should be and reminding people it's the oligarchs against the poor folk, what our history was as far as organized labor, and what we need to do, and the true meaning of socialism. I mean, for those of you, oh, socialism. Hey, if you're driving on public roads, if you have a public library, public school systems, utility systems, that's all socialism. It means we all band together, put our money in a big pot, and we're paying for things that everyone gets to use, in a nutshell. So, don't get your panties in a wad. I think Trump will absolutely throw Vance under the bus because Trump knows that Vance is about ready to enact the 25th. Yes, Jackie, he is the only one that stands a chance right now, but we really need to get some young talent in the pipeline. Okay. Yes, Lynn, but there again, you've got this party machine that keeps doing the same thing over and over, and I see it here with the state party. They keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results. So it gets to the point where the citizenry needs to make their own results because the parties just aren't. Okay, Pat. I love Canadians, and I'm so glad you know that not all of us are Trump idiots. And I'm sure that you really have to watch a lot of what's going on. I mean, we're neighbors, we're siblings. Oh, Ina, I'm a Democrat in Ruby Ridge, Southern Ohio. I do understand. Oh, let's see. Oh, Judy, I'm glad you brought up podcast. Eventually, we won't be doing Facebook Live and I won't have to have cheesy backgrounds. We will be doing podcasts. It won't be till I get back from Idaho, and then we're actually going to have some bona fide podcasts. And I will be interviewing people that are running for state office and other offices. I've already been contacted by several candidates, but I think it's a little bit too early to have them on there. And I've just kind of made up my mind. I'll do open and honest talks with these people, but I want the people to decide. So I'm not going to endorse anybody. I want you to listen to them and you decide. No, I could look. Yes, I will do it later. I'll put in a link for his full speech, but God, I hope you have something stronger to drink than coffee. It was really bad. Yes, Roberta, I love Pete Buttigieg. Even, I thought it was kind of sad. I watched the interview with Kamala and Rachel Maddow last night, and she said he was her first choice for vice president, but she thought it was a bit much to have a woman of color with a gay running mate. And I'm like, we have got to get over not picking the smartest kid in the class. I want the smartest person in the class over my economy. I want the smartest person in the class over my health care. I don't want the guy I can have a beer with. That was Bush. And I sure as hell don't want senile shits and pants in charge, which is what we got now. Loved Joe Biden. He was a good human being, but he got to be a doddering old man. I want the smartest guy in the class. At least Joe Biden got the smartest people in the class around him. So, let's see. Nope. Pat Okay, Lisa, thank you for joining anyway. Okay, well, I think that's it. I'm going to get off of here. And I want to thank all of you for jumping on and commenting and participating. And we'll do this again next Tuesday. And like I said, tomorrow night they're supposed to live stream the event at Shawnee State. And I'll see you later. Love y'all. Stay salty and keep using your outdoor voice because it's making a difference. Love you. Bye-bye.